Welcome to Moon and Fire. I'm Emily Bailey, the founder of Whole and Wild, where I guide women back to their sacred wisdom through ritual and cyclical living. This is a podcast for women ready to remember their sacred cycles, reclaim their radiant fire, and unleash their intuitive magic. Welcome home, sacred woman. Let's begin. I'm so grateful that you're here today. Before we dive into our exploration, I want to mention that I have a special free workshop coming up on April 16th that I'm really excited about. I'll share all the details at the end of our episode today, but I wanted you to know that something beautiful is on the horizon. Today we're exploring what it truly means to be a woman at home in herself, to accept, honor, and live from the full range of your being. This homecoming to our complete selves is one of the most radical and healing journeys that we can undertake as women. I remember a moment several years ago when I experienced this profound sense of homecoming. I had spent so much of my life as an Enneagram 2 trying to be good, to be acceptable, to be the version of myself who would receive love and approval. But in this moment, sitting alone in prayer, in my car, I felt this wave of permission wash over me. Permission to contain multitudes. Permission to be both fierce and soft. Both structured and wild. Both light and shadow. I felt my body physically expand, as though my being had been living in just a few rooms of a vast home, and suddenly all the doors flew open. The relief was palpable. The power was undeniable. And this is what I want for you, to experience the profound liberation that comes when you create a home for every aspect of your sacred being. So let's begin this journey of coming home to ourselves. There's a longing that I hear from women across all walks of life. A quiet ache that often manifests as restlessness, as disconnection, as a persistent feeling of just not enough. Maybe you felt it too, that sense that parts of you remain unlived, are unexpressed, or unwelcomed, even by yourself. This fragmentation didn't happen by accident. We've been taught to compartmentalize ourselves, to bring our productivity to work but leave our emotion at home, or to show our nurturing to our children but hide our wildness from the world, or to express our light but keep our shadow carefully concealed. And the cost of this fragmentation runs so deep. When we disown aspects of ourselves, we expend enormous energy maintaining these internal boundaries. We actually lose access to our full resources, our complete wisdom, and our most authentic power. We live as visitors in our own lives, cautiously moving through spaces that we were actually meant to fully inhabit. But what becomes possible when we finally come home to ourselves? When we create a sanctuary for our complete being, everything changes. Our relationships transform because we're no longer seeking external wholeness to compensate for internal fragmentation. Our creativity flourishes because it can draw from our full spectrum of experience. Our purpose clarifies because we can hear the whispers of our soul without the static of self-rejection. This homecoming is not a luxury. It is the essential foundation for any woman seeking to reclaim her power and live from her truth. So let's explore this metaphor of home. I used it on purpose because I want to really dig into what it truly means to be at home in yourself. Home represents safety, belonging, authenticity, and rest. It's where we can exhale completely, where we don't need to hold ourselves together or present a curated version of who we are. Home is where we belong simply because we exist, not because we've earned our place. There's something about being comfortable in our home that invites us to literally expand. Think of a comfortable chair or a couch that invites us to sprawl out, to take up space, to unfurl our limbs without constraint. Now, contrast that with being in an uninviting space where we stand constricted, uncomfortable, constantly monitoring ourselves. In one space, we naturally expand. In the other, we instinctively contract. This is the difference between being at home in yourself and being a cautious visitor in your own life. Many of us have created homes for only certain aspects of ourselves: the acceptable parts, the productive parts, the parts that receive validation from others. Meanwhile, other aspects of our being remain homeless, wandering, searching for sanctuary. This fragmentation is part of our feminine inheritance. For generations, women have been taught that certain aspects of themselves were too much, too dangerous, too disruptive to be welcomed. Our anger, our sensuality, our ambition, our messiness, our needs. These were often asked to wait outside while our accommodation, our nurturing, our self-sacrifice were invited in. Being at home in yourself means creating space for your complete being, not just the parts that are easy to love or socially acceptable, but every aspect of who you are. It means moving from a theoretical self-acceptance to an embodied homecoming where all of you is welcomed, heard, and honored. This is the foundation for everything else in your life: your relationships, your work, your creativity, and your service to the world. Because we cannot give what we do not possess, and we cannot express what we have not first embraced. So let's explore what it means to welcome your full range as a woman, to create a home for every aspect of your beautiful, complex being. First, consider your light and shadow. Our culture has conditioned women to showcase only our most acceptable qualities: our nurturing, our compassion, our accommodation. But what about our fierce protection, our righteous anger, our wild sensuality, our uncompromising boundaries? These shadow qualities aren't flaws to be eliminated. They're essential aspects of our wholeness that carry profound medicine. I've seen women transform when they finally welcome home their shadow aspects. The woman who makes space for her anger discovers her fierce protection. The woman who embraces her wildness finds her creative fire. The woman who honors her boundaries uncovers her authentic truth. Integration, not elimination, is the path home. I want to say that again. Integration, not elimination, is the path home. Your shadow qualities aren't problems to solve. They're powerful aspects of yourself that are waiting to be reclaimed. Often our most potent gifts hide within the parts of ourselves that we've been taught to reject. Next, I want you to consider your emotional spectrum. We've inherited the myth of the too emotional woman, the belief that our feelings make us weak, irrational, or unprofessional. But what if your emotions are actually sophisticated messengers, delivering precise data about your experience? What if they're not problems to solve, but wisdom to integrate? I want to invite you to take on that perspective. Your emotional range flows naturally with your cycle. There are times when you're designed to feel more deeply, to process more thoroughly, and to sense more acutely. Creating space for your full emotional spectrum doesn't mean being overwhelmed by feelings. It means developing a relationship with them, listening to their messages, and honoring their wisdom. Then there are your desires and will. Many women have a complicated relationship with wanting. We've been taught that our needs should come last, that our desires are secondary, and that our will should bend to accommodate others. We've learned to suppress our authentic wants under layers of should and ought to. Coming home to yourself means reconnecting with what you truly want, distinguishing between conditioned desires and soul longings. It means honoring the wisdom of your wants, building trust with your own will, and granting yourself permission to declare, "This is what I desire." Finally, I want you to consider the dance of feminine and masculine energies within you. This isn't about gender, but about the principles of receptivity and action, of being and doing, of flowing and focusing that exist within all of us. Each woman embodies these energies in her unique way, creating her own beautiful balance. Some of us have overemphasized the masculine energy, constantly doing, producing, achieving, while neglecting our receptive feminine nature. Others have perhaps disconnected from our directed masculine energy while overemphasizing passive aspects of the feminine. Coming home means honoring both the soft and the fierce aspects of your nature, finding your unique expression of these complementary energies. What prevents us from creating this home for our complete selves? Why haven't we done it already? Let's explore both the external and the internal barriers that we face. Externally, we encounter cultural messaging about acceptable feminine expression, the narrow definitions of what a good woman looks, sounds, and acts like. We navigate relationships that might reinforce our fragmentation, expecting us to show up in limited ways. We operate within the structures that dismiss feminine wisdom and that reward only certain aspects of our being. These external forces are real, and acknowledging them is important. But ultimately, it's the internal barriers that most powerfully keep us from coming home to ourselves. That's the inner critic and the perfectionist who constantly measures us against impossible standards. There's the fear of rejection or abandonment if we show up in our fullness. There's a deep discomfort with unfamiliar parts of ourselves, aspects that we've rejected for so long that now they feel foreign. And there are the habits of self-abandonment and people-pleasing that have become so automatic that we hardly notice them. These internal barriers didn't develop overnight, and they won't dissolve immediately. But becoming aware of them is the first step to dismantling them. We cannot transform what we do not acknowledge. So, how do we begin this journey home? Let me share a pathway that has supported my own journey and those of many women I've worked with. It begins with sacred connection, creating intentional space to actually hear all the parts of yourself. This might look like journaling dialogues with aspects of yourself that you've rejected, or creating rituals to welcome home exiled parts of your being, or simply sitting in meditation with the question, what parts of me are longing to be heard? There's a profound power in naming and acknowledging what has remained unnamed. When we bring conscious awareness to the aspects of ourselves that we've been ignoring or rejecting, we actually begin to dissolve the barriers to wholeness. It's the same thing with, I used to live in an intentional community in a downtown area that was considered one of the worst areas in town. And it's so easy to objectify your neighbor as that guy who does this thing until you get to know them. Because suddenly it's Joe who does that thing because of this circumstance in his life and the story that he has. When we get to know the parts of ourselves, when we cultivate sacred connection, something changes. Ritual can also be a powerful support for this reconnection, creating sacred containers where all of you is welcomed. The journey continues with embodied wholeness, moving from just this intellectual understanding to a felt knowing. Your body holds both of your fragmentation and your wholeness. It carries the tension of self-rejection and the possibility of integration. Some simple somatic practices can support this embodied homecoming. Placing a hand on your heart while saying, I welcome all of me. Dancing to express different aspects of your nature. Using breath to expand the spaces that feel contracted. These physical practices speak directly to your body, and they create new patterns of wholeness that go beyond cognitive understanding. Remember that this pathway is not linear. It's a spiral dance of remembering and forgetting, of coming home and wandering away again. The key is to approach yourself with profound compassion through every stage of the journey. I'd like to guide you through a simple practice here for creating an inner sanctuary for your whole self. This is something you can return to daily, especially when you notice yourself rejecting aspects of your experience. Find a comfortable position, and if you'd like, close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths, allowing your body to settle. Imagine that you're standing at the threshold of a beautiful home, your inner sanctuary. This home is designed perfectly for you, with space for every aspect of your being. As you step inside, feel the immediate sense of belonging. This is your home. You need no permission to be here. Notice that this home has many rooms, each designed to welcome a different aspect of yourself. There's space for your joy and your grief, your power and your vulnerability, your wildness and your stillness. As you move through this inner sanctuary, become aware of any rooms that feel neglected or closed off. Perhaps there's a space for your anger that's been locked away, or a room for your desires that's gathered dust, or a chamber for your shadows that's been kept dark. With gentle curiosity, move toward one of these spaces that calls for your attention. As you approach the door, take a breath and set the intention to welcome whatever you find inside. Opening the door, you encounter this aspect of yourself that has been waiting for your recognition, your acceptance, your love. Don't rush to change or fix anything you find. Simply be present with this part of yourself, offering the gift of your attention. You might say, I see you. I hear you. You belong here. This is your home too. Notice how it feels in your body to create space for this aspect of yourself. Where do you feel expansion? Where do you sense relief? When you feel complete with this exploration, return to the central space of your inner sanctuary. Feel the wholeness that becomes possible when all aspects of yourself are welcomed home. Take a deep breath, and when you're ready, gently open your eyes. This practice takes just a few minutes, but it can create profound shifts in your relationship with yourself. I invite you to return to it daily, especially when you notice yourself contracting away from aspects of your own experience. As we come to the close of our time together, I want to acknowledge the courage that it takes to create a home for your complete self. This journey of homecoming isn't always easy, but it's essential. because when you're at home in yourself, you become unshakable in your truth, unstoppable in your purpose, and unlimited in your expression. I invite you to experiment with the homecoming practice that we explored today. Notice what shifts when you create space for all of who you are. Remember that this is an ongoing journey. We are constantly expanding and constantly discovering new rooms in the mansion of ourselves. And now, I'm excited to share a special invitation with you. On April 16th at 10 a.m. Eastern, I'm hosting a free virtual workshop called Storm Truth, the unshakable voice of a truth-speaking woman. This workshop is a natural extension of what we explored today, because once you've created a home for your complete self, your voice emerges with unprecedented clarity and power. In this transformative hour together, you'll discover how to speak your deepest truths with clarity and power, not just weathering challenges, but harnessing their energy to fuel your authentic voice. You'll learn the ancient practice of speaking from your sacred center, discover embodiment techniques for staying rooted during life's storms, and experience what happens when you transform resistance into renewal. If you find yourself holding back your truth to keep peace, if you know what you believe but you struggle to maintain that certainty when you're faced with opposition, or if you sense there's a more powerful voice within you that is waiting to emerge, this workshop is for you. To register, visit my website at wholeandwild.com or check the show notes for the direct link. All live participants will be entered into a drawing to win a stunning Storm Truth art print, a beautiful reminder of your unshakable voice. So if you can, show up live. Before we part, I want to offer a blessing for your journey home. May you create space for every aspect of your sacred being. May you recognize the wisdom in both your light and your shadow. May you honor the full spectrum of your emotional landscape. May you trust the power of your complete, unedited self. And may you always remember that you are the home you've been seeking. Remember the sacred cycles. Reclaim your radiant fire. Unleash your intuitive magic. Thank you for being here, sacred woman. Until next time.